There's a specific kind of paralysis that doesn't appear in any diagnosis. It has no clinical name. It's not depression. It's not anxiety, at least not the way the manual describes it. It's the paralysis of the man who prepared well, who read the right books, watched the right content, went through the right experiences, built the right skills, and still didn't move. Daniel is 34, works at a tech company, been there 6 years, stable career respected by his colleagues, trains 5 days a week, has read over 40 non-fiction books in the last 2 years, philosophy, neuroscience, psychology, leadership, has a personal project that lives in a folder on his laptop since 2021. He's revised the plan for that project 9 times, never launched anything. If you ask Daniel why he hasn't started, he'll give you an honest, intelligent answer. He'll talk about the timing not being right, about needing to learn one more skill first, about market uncertainty, about wanting to do it well, not rush it, about being in preparation mode. Everything Daniel says is true, and nothing Daniel says is the real reason. The real reason is that Daniel, somewhere he hasn't yet named, never gave himself permission to begin, not because he isn't ready, but because beginning is the only moment when preparation stops protecting him. While he's preparing, he can't fail. While he's planning, it's possible. When he starts, it exists. That's the trap. And it's sophisticated enough that intelligent men stay inside it for years without realizing it's a trap. It looks like prudence, looks like responsibility, looks like you're being discerning, not afraid. But there's a difference between preparation and postponement, wearing the face of preparation. And that difference doesn't live in the behavior, it lives in the internal state that generates the behavior. I'm going to show you where this paralysis comes from, what it's protecting, the cost it charges without you noticing, and what it actually takes not to eliminate the fear, but to start despite it. Identity paralysis has a specific root. It begins when your identity is anchored in what you know, not what you do, in the potential, not the reality, in what you could be, not what you're being. That anchoring happens early, sometimes in school when you were the smart one, the one who learned fast, the one who had the answers, sometimes in family when the narrative was, this one's going somewhere, sometimes in failure experiences that got interpreted as threats to identity rather than information about the world. The result is a very specific protection system. You remain possible. You remain potential. You remain the guy who's going to do something significant when the time is right, and the time never comes. Not because the world isn't ready, but because arriving means testing. And testing means the identity you built in theory is going to meet reality. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived Auschwitz and spent the rest of his life studying what keeps a human being standing in extreme conditions, arrived at a conclusion most people still haven't fully processed. The greatest suffering is not what happens to you. It's the gap between who you could be and who you're being. He called it no-logical tension, the distance between the current self and the self that answers life's call. Daniel lives in that tension, not in misery, not in obvious suffering, in the low-grade chronic tension of knowing he's below himself, of having a larger version of himself waiting and a current version that keeps planning. That tension isn't neutral, it charges, not in depression or collapse, in a deep boredom with his own life, in irritability without apparent cause, in difficulty being present, because being present means being in the current version, and the current version isn't where the identity wants to live. But there's a trap inside the trap. This is where most people stop. When Daniel finally considers starting, when the idea of acting appears with enough force, the protection system activates a response that seems reasonable. I need to be more prepared, not as obvious procrastination, as logical conclusion, as self-care, as responsibility to the process. And Daniel goes back to the folder, revises the plan, learns one more skill, and is further from starting than before because now he has more information to justify the wait. This cycle has a name in cognitive psychology. Carol Dweck, Stanford researcher who spent decades studying mindset and performance, identified two fundamental operating modes: fixed mindset and growth mindset. The fixed mindset operates to protect identity. The growth mindset operates to expand capacity. What Dweck found, and this is more disturbing than most people accept, is that intelligent, self-aware men frequently have more sophisticated fixed mindsets, not less, because they're good at building narratives that justify protection. They don't say, "I'm afraid of failing." They say, "I'm being strategic." Daniel is strategic. Daniel is discerning. Daniel has all the right reasons for being exactly where he is, and Daniel is exactly where he was 3 years ago. Before we go further, everything you're learning here only works if you execute it, and executing is exactly where most people stop. I built a system called the Untamed Mind protocol. 3 tools that work together: an ebook that explains the why, an interactive dashboard that organizes your day, and a reprogramming audio that works where knowledge can't reach. All of it for $37. Link in the description. Back to the content. The cost of paralysis doesn't show up in a single day. It shows up across years, and that's exactly why it's so hard to see, because each day of waiting seems reasonable. Only when you look at the accumulated total does the real number appear. Think about it this way. Daniel is 34. The project that's been in that folder since 2021 could, with modest consistency, have generated real returns. Financial, reputational, professional, in 2 years of execution. Not perfect, not revolutionary, consistent. But it wasn't executed, and now that's 4 years. 4 years of potential that stayed in possible mode. 4 years of an identity that could have expanded through contact with reality, but that continued existing only in theory. The cost isn't just financial. It's who you could have become and didn't. It's the version of you that only emerges when you act, and that doesn't exist while you plan. Every year of waiting is a year that version didn't exist in the world, and that version doesn't come back. This is what I need you to feel for real, not as intellectual data, but as actual weight. Because the human brain is terrible at calculating the cost of inaction. It calculates the cost of action very well: the effort, the risk of failure, the discomfort. But the cost of not acting is invisible, distributed across so many reasonable days that it never weighs heavy enough in any single decision. And that's exactly why paralysis is so efficient. It never looks costly enough to justify the discomfort of stopping. So what breaks that cycle? Not motivation. Motivation is what you feel when you're already moving. It's not what makes you start. Anyone waiting for motivation to begin will wait forever, because motivation is a consequence of action, not its cause. Not more planning. You have enough planning. You probably have more planning than 90% of the people who are executing right now. What breaks the cycle is a deliberate decision to treat the beginning as sacred. Not the perfect beginning, the imperfect beginning, the first ugly, incomplete, embarrassing version of anything, the post that has 2 errors, the project with obvious gaps, the attempt that's going to reveal where you actually are, not where you think you are. Because identity only changes through contact with reality. While you're in planning mode, the identity is a hypothesis. When you act, it gets tested. And being tested, even if the first version fails, creates real data about who you are. And real data about who you are is the foundation of the only self-confidence that doesn't collapse when you're challenged. There's a distinction that Epictetus, Roman slave who became one of the most influential philosophers of Stoicism, made with surgical clarity: what is in your control and what is not. Outcome, recognition, other people's approval, outside your control. The quality of your action, the integrity of your attempt, the effort you bring, inside your control. Identity paralysis happens when you confuse the two, when your identity is anchored to outcome. Any action that could generate a negative result threatens who you are. So you don't act, not from laziness, but from self-preservation. When you unanchor identity from outcome and anchor it instead to the quality of your action, the equation changes completely. You can fail without ceasing to be the man you want to be. You can fail in an attempt without that saying something definitive about you. You can start imperfect without it destroying the image you've built of yourself. This is what I need you to understand. The fear of starting isn't fear of failure, it's fear of deconstruction. It's the fear that reality is going to show a version of you smaller than the version that lives in your head. And that fear is real. It will be there when you start. It's not going to disappear before. The question is, do you start with it present, or do you wait for it to leave on its own? It doesn't leave on its own. It only stops governing when you act, despite it enough times to build evidence that you're capable of functioning even with discomfort active. Daniel, when he finally started, not because the fear passed, but because it became more costly not to start than to start, said something that stayed with me. I thought I'd have clarity before acting, but the clarity only came after acting. That's how it works. Clarity isn't the prerequisite, it's the consequence. You act with the confusion present, and the confusion gradually gives way as you collect real data about what you're doing and who you're becoming. The version of you that exists in the real world, imperfect, under construction, visible, is infinitely more powerful than the perfect version that exists only in your head. Because the real world version adapts, learns, grows. The version in your head stays the same, waiting for conditions that never arrive. You made it here. That already says something about you. Most people open a video about discipline and close it halfway through. You stayed, you listened, you're looking for something real. So I want to show you something I built specifically for someone at this point, who knows what they want, but still feels like the day ends without the most important things getting done. It's the Untamed Mind protocol, 3 tools in one system. The ebook explains why your mind sabotages you before you even notice, and what to do differently. The performance dashboard opens directly in your browser. No app, no login. You set your intention, your 3 priorities, use the focus timer, check off habits, do your nightly reflection. Everything in one place works offline. The reprogramming audio is 20 minutes. Listen to it in the morning or before sleep. It works at the subconscious level, where real habits live. Link in the description. If you made it this far, this protocol is for you.